It's weird because you look at your discography and it feels like you never miss. Today's super producer has double-digit Billboard #1 singles. Are you critical of yourself?
I think I'm more critical now because I actually know what it takes for it to be great, and I want to win. These were the years of me honing my craft, really, and figuring it out, and you need that time, because I wasn't really a musician, but this is how I developed a sense of rhythm, and no, that was a huge turning point.
How do you work so fast?
You know, when someone listens to a song, they don't care if it was made in a couple hours or if it took months and months. When it does matter is when you're in the studio. If you're spending too long, you might have lost the magic. There is something to be said for being excited about the idea you're working on. I try to accomplish that early on in the session.
Your sonic choices are unparalleled. What tools do you use?
Everything in production is nuances, you know, it's like the tiniest little things. Like there is a little bit of an X factor to it because
This season is presented by NMPA, the National Music Publishers Association, champions of songwriters and publishers everywhere. Welcome to And the Writer Is. I'm your host, Ross Golan. Today's super producer has double-digit Billboard #1 singles. Not just hits, but evergreens, eh? If music is the soundtrack of our lives, then the music supervisor of the past 15 years is this nice fella. All the way from down the street, this Canadian-born producer cares about the future of musicians in a way few active writers do. And the writer is my fellow hockey player and friend, Cirkut.
Thank you, Ross. Beautiful
Oh,
intro.
Canada. You grew up in Toronto, right? Area?
Kind of moved around a bit. Toronto, Montreal, Nova Scotia, you know, but Canada, basically, you know,
But
places where there's ice and snow. Yeah.
I feel like you can define every town by their hockey rink.
Right. Yeah.
Like, there's not a town that doesn't have a hockey rink there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood. So why were you moving around between the two?
Let me think back. So, well, I guess I grew up, my childhood was in Montreal. You know, parents split up when I was younger, so I moved with my mom to Montreal. Basically was there from elementary school to the middle of high school, and kind of finished high school in Nova Scotia, where I moved to live with my dad. And yeah, I mean, it was around that time that I started, you know, mid-high school. Even before then, I started to, you know, find a love for music, and I had friends around who were into it, and yeah, that was a important time for me. It started my musical journey, and you know, I look back on it fondly. Yeah.
Why did you move from your mom to your dad?
I guess putting it a certain way, I was not thriving. I was not doing well in school, I guess. It was determined that it would be better if I went to live with my dad. Yeah. No, it was just the time, you know, I was young, I was a teenager, I was kind of figuring my life out. It's what made sense at the time. And I think it was good. It was hard at first, but it made me sort of able to adapt to different situations and find a whole new set of friends and go to a new school, go to multiple schools. And in one sense, I've never, you know, I feel like I've had multiple homes and maybe not always had like a place to really, you know, to plant roots, but it's also made me able to adapt to different places. So
I mean, your music career will get there, but that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there are some people who kind of have their roots. They write with who they write with their whole career, and that's where they don't really move outside of it. And you swim amongst many different groups of people. You know, you can count on one hand how many people do that well.
Right.
So maybe that makes sense. What was the kind of music that you listened to in each household, and were they similar?
Yeah, let me think. I guess my first exposure to music was I had some friends who lived in Montreal. I lived kind of in a sort of duplex apartment. I was on the bottom with my mom, and these guys, my friends of mine they're from Houston, Texas, you know, they're my American buddies, you know, like I was in Montreal, you know, and the most Canadian you can get. And these guys come, you know, rumbling in, and they're really into basketball, and they're really into, you know, and they exposed me to lot of hip hop music. They showed me like, you know, Tupac and Bone Thugs and Harmony and like just all Tribe Called Quest and you name it, just all this music I'd never really heard before. And that had a big effect on me because from that point I was never really a big music listener, consumer. I only heard what like friends in school might play on their CDs or something, or might, hey, check out this song. I hadn't developed a taste in music yet. So that was a big turning point for me, those guys. And then as I got older, I started to see, you know, friends pop up who were really interested in DJing. You know, I had a few friends who I didn't really know what it was at the time, but they had these turntables, you know, they had these Technics 1200 turntables and they were mixing these records. They were scratching and, you know, kind of manipulating these beats and flipping them around. And I saw that and I was like, that's really cool. What's that? I want to, you know, do that. Even though I didn't really fully understand what it was, but I guess early on, I you know, that made me curious about how these records were made and how they were manipulated and kind of getting into not just hearing it as one song, but hearing it as like, oh, these are the drums, these are the break beats come from this song on this record, and this was sampled from this, and it helped me sort of. I was interested in how it was broken down. So I mean, I was like 13 or 14 at the time, so this was kind of my.
Were you buying vinyl then?
Not quite that early. It was mostly friends who had it, maybe from their parents' records collections.
You were into listen at that point. You're watching them do it, and you're listening.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and they were making these really crazy beats, and yeah, I was just fascinated with that. I guess that was kind of more. Everyone's got a different upbringing. Some people they played in bands, or they started as a piano lesson kind of person, or whatever. This was my thing. I was really into the DJ culture and the hip hop and the manipulation of these records and sounds, and that really caught my ear. And yeah, I just remember being so fascinated. I had a friend at the time who maybe, I don't know, wasn't so much of a friend, but I remember getting off of school and every day I would call him on the phone. It was a landline. We didn't have cell phones, but I'd call him. I'm like trying to like reach him because I know he had turntables, and I was like, I want to go over to his house and mess around. And he always like ghosted me. He was always like, I'm busy, or didn't answer or whatever. And it was such a down. I was like, man, I just want to, for some reason at the time, it was just like, I really wanted to like make friends with this guy and like him to show me the ropes. And like, it just never really, so maybe that like fueled an early fire in me to be like, I'm going to do this. Like, this guy's not helping me at all. I'm going to, you know, so yeah, that's where it started. And then many years after that went by, but that's where it started.
So what's the journey of you see these people, you said some of them making beats.
Yeah.
What was that process, and how soon did you start your first trial on that?
Yeah, I guess I would see friends messing around on FruityLoops, you know, I mean, now it's like FL Studio, it's a professional thing. Back then it was like FruityLoops, the first version, the cracked Windows version, whatever, you know, whatever you get your hands on. And I had a program called Cool Edit. I don't know, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to like, we didn't have like, YouTube was around, but it wasn't like what it is now, where you can tutorial. Okay, I can learn everything, and what like I kind of had to just. It was sort of like word of mouth, and had to like figure it out from different people, just like as you go, sort of thing. So yeah, I was seeing guys making cool beats, and some of them would rap, and some of them would, you know, like record themselves over their beats. And this, I didn't know anything about really recording or anything, so I was like watching this kind of, and just through osmosis, just kind of taking it in.
Did you ever try rapping?
We're not going to go into that. No. I did. Not like actually.
Did you have a name?
Not professionally. Not really. I mean, I don't know. People might have called me, like, because my name's Henry, people would call me like Hennessy or something. Or like,
yeah, there you go.
So bad. No, I would experiment around, you know, as you're, you know, a kid in like whatever it was, middle school and into high school, you would beatbox, and we'd kind of, you know, try to freestyle and like be horrible at it, but, you know, trying to, you know, kind of get into that culture. And I grew an appreciation for just rap music and for beats and for hip hop. And
when was it good? What was the first time you wrote something that you were like, oh, maybe this isn't terrible? Well,
the point that I'm kind of describing right now, probably like 10 years after that. I don't know, because the era I'm talking about, I'm like 15, you know, maybe 14, 15. I mean, there was probably 10 years of just messing around and like.
Were you showing anybody?
I had like some close friends at the time who, one old friend of mine.
Are we in Nova Scotia at this time?
So we're kind of transitioning from Montreal into Nova Scotia into like end of high school kind of era. And I started to get known around high school as like, oh, he makes beats. What's going on? And there's a bunch of kids who maybe want to rap. And I think one of the first things I did actually was I DJ'd the pep rally, the school pep rally. They were like, hey, you should bring your turntables. And, so we'd have the basketball team going. And I had just vinyl at the time. I don't think there was even Serato where I could play MP3s on vinyl. I had crates of vinyl that I would either were from my dad's record collection or from friends, or I just happened to acquire somehow. And I had a very limited set list. It was like, I'm out of records. I got nothing else to play. But yeah, so I was doing stuff like that, and I was doing more on like, I guess that was more the DJing, but then on the kind of production sound design side, I got sort of known as so there were fashion shows at this high school that I went to, like, high school fashion shows.
How big of a high school is this?
This was like, it was maybe 1,000 kids or something like that.
So it's pretty big.
Yeah, and I got known as I would do a mix of these girls for this fashion show wanted, hey, I want this song to go into the next song, into the next song, into the next, they didn't know really, but I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of like a mix, like a blend, like a, sort of a mixtape, but a short little set list of a thing. So with my crude sort of Cool Edit, I was using Cool Edit, I think. It was so ridiculous, like, to think back, but I was using just I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I would listen to other mixtapes and I would see how they blend them and match them. And I was doing little, like, taking the end of the song and putting a reverb tail on it and have it go into the next song and like trying to beat match it. I didn't even know how to put it on grid. Like, this is very, very rudimentary, but I mean,
but I think loved it.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. They loved it, and then I got more people coming to me like, "Hey, I'll pay you $20 to do this thing," So it wasn't much of a hustle. It didn't really make a lot, but it helped me, start to hone my skills, I guess, and like understanding how to do that kind of stuff. Which to this day, I've worked on live music sets for the likes of Lady Gaga on her Mayhem tour, like where I'm applying the same things I did. I didn't know how to do it back then well, but now I'm doing the same thing. I'm making transitions, and in the songs I produce too, I'm doing stuff like that too. So it started then, it wasn't much, but
well, are you as critical of what you do now as you were of what you did then? When you go to the Mayhem tour, are you listening to transitions like, probably should have, like, are you critical of yourself?
I think I'm more critical now because I actually know what it takes for it to be great, and I know my abilities, and I usually know what's great and what's not great. Sometimes I'm wrong, but back then I had absolutely no idea. I was just trying to get the job done, but yeah, I want it to be great. I hold myself to the work that I do to a high standard, and it's got to be right. Yeah.
So you graduate from high school, then what happens?
That was when moved to Toronto. Didn't have much of a plan. My plan was basically I had a 1-year audio engineering school that I was going to go to. That was going to be sort of my safe place to land kind of thing. Like, I'm going to school, I'm going to see what happens. I didn't really have a plan after that. But I went to this school in Toronto. Shout out Harris Institute.
There you go.
That it was good. I still was sort of treating it a little like high school, where some classes I was very passionate about music, but I wasn't as passionate about every single class. Like, some classes I kind of just didn't go to, and I would just go back to my studio apartment and make beats instead. So some stuff I kind of did it as like a la carte, kind of choose your own. I would show up for the stuff I was really interested in, and the other stuff I would just go home and make beats, because that's what just seemed like the most productive thing, because that's what I wanted to do, so it was a good first, like, out of high school. It kind of helped me, learn some of the basics, textbook stuff about audio and stuff like that.
Like what?
Like, just very technical, kind of like learning about waveforms and audio and synthesis and acoustics and
Compression.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like very rudimentary. Like thinking back to those days, after having left that school, I still didn't really fully grasp it. Like, because just looking at what I know now, like I have such a greater understanding of all that stuff. But it helped. It started something, and it got me into that world, thinking about music, and it got me to Toronto, which was like a hub of music and entertainment and culture for Canada, so it was the best place for me to be at the time.
Were you still using FL at that time?
I think at this
Did
point
you fluctuate?
I had an MPC at one point. I had the MPC, much to the hip hop kind of, stylings. I had an MPC that I would program on, and I think I was still figuring out how to get it out of my MPC into some sort of multi-track software like Pro Tools or Cool Edit or whatever. I think Cool Edit became Adobe Audition. They like leveled up, and but so I was still just kind of finding my way. Like these were the years of me honing my craft, really. I mean, I was figuring it out, and you need that time, like I wasn't immediately like right away off to the races, like I'm working with big artists and working with Drake and it wasn't like that quite yet. So I was still just kind of, and I feel like I just knew I had to do that. I knew that I wasn't ready yet to really for my big break or whatever it is. I knew I needed to put in the hours.
Well, and at that time Drake was probably just having his bar mitzvah, so
right, yeah, exactly.
It was a different time.
I actually do remember I was telling this to someone the other day. Drake did come by to like my studio at some point. This must have been in like 2005. I don't even know the years. Maybe around something like that. 2006. He was starting to pop off, but like mostly in Canada, and he was kind of known just on the more like rap mixtape circuit kind of thing. And I remember him coming by with his crew, and just some mutual friends of mine knew his people, and they were like, "Hey, this new producer, you should come check out his beats." And it just goes to show it wasn't the right time. It was like I played some beats, and he was like, "That's cool, but like, what would you play for like Jay-Z or something? Or what would you play for?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let me see what I got." Like I didn't, it wasn't the right time, and that's okay, but it was like, I was still working at it, but it was cool to be around that time to see that, to see Drake at his very beginning, and then, look where he is now. But, those are the types of things that were happening in Toronto. It's a very local, it's a regional scene, and now obviously people from there are superstars, but, those things were going on.
I mean, it wasn't really the right time for him either. I mean,
right.
had you shown your best work at that point, if you were you now, then you'd be like, this guy's really like, he's so talented, but it's a little early.
Exactly. Yeah. Drake, you're great, man, but I don't know. You got to keep working on it.
We'll see.
Imagine I said that. No.
When does it go from Hennessy to Cirkut?
Cirkut is kind of the name I gave myself, as I was kind of getting into the production and DJ culture. All the DJs had cool names. There was like guys I looked up to, like DJ A-Track, who was also from Montreal. He had a cool name, there was DJ, like, I got a little bit into the turntablism scene for a second. It's very kind of, niche and whatever, but that's what I was into. Very scratch heavy, a lot of like, and that's where I developed my sense of rhythm, because I wasn't really a musician, but this is how I developed a sense of rhythm and kind of editing. I was kind of editing on the fly and making cool rhythms and chops and stuff. So anyways, all these DJs had cool names, and I was like, what's my name going to be? and I just came up with it, Cirkut. And it's kind of like a portmanteau, if you will, of sir and cut. I'm cutting up the record, and I'm sir, and it's Cirkut, and it's with it. I don't know.
It works.
Yeah, it was DJ Cirkut, and then I don't know. Fast forward a few, later, people just started calling me Cirkut. It dropped the DJ and just became Cirkut, and
And you're like, it's
stuck.
Cirkut.
Yeah,
it's
yeah, Cirkut. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like Oneaters from what is it? That Thing You Do. Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, that scene in Toronto, you do come up with some amazingly talented people.
Yeah.
Describe how it goes from being that quote studio, as you're calling it, into something where Drake, an up and coming guy, but you kind of up and come up with some huge people. So
Right.
describe how it gets to that.
Yeah, so I guess there was kind of dividing it into a few different eras of Toronto. That was the first era of Toronto where like I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out. And then as I started to kind of, okay, I'm getting better. I'm getting, people are like, hey, he's getting better. You should check out his tracks now. Look at him now. I kind of formed a group with some friends of mine at the time, and long story short, we got signed to a Canadian record label.
What does that mean, a group? Like you're on
Basically, it wasn't a
stage?
band, but I was producing it with my friend at the time, and there was my other friend who was the lead singer.
Who are those guys?
Their names are Adrian and PJ. Adrian and PJ. Yeah, they were from.
Shout out, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were in this group where I was kind of, for the live part of it, I would DJ on stage, and I was also sort of producing the songs and and sort of mixing it and putting it together. And still I was getting better, but I still didn't know really. I knew how to make beats, but I didn't know how to like write songs or arrange songs. Like I remember doing the vocals with the lead singer PJ, and I was doubling every vocal. Like I didn't have a concept of like, this is the lead vocal and this, maybe in the chorus here you add some more stacks to make it bigger. I was just doubling every vocal because I thought that's just what you did. I didn't know, but it produced some interesting results.
Did you guys did you release music?
Yeah, we did. We had an album that came out.
Is it out right now? Like, could someone go and find it?
You could if you were so inclined, and I would probably cringe at it, but
What was the band called?
It was called Let's Go to War.
Okay.
Yeah. It was kind of, the lead singer, he was a bit more like, had some politically charged kind of things to say, and
it was that era too.
It was that era, yeah. And it was kind of combined with like pop. It was sort of like a Black Eyed Peas mixed with like, some more political statement kind of stuff, and some, I don't know, it was a mishmash of things. But I look back on it fondly, even though I cringe when I hear the music, but like that was the genesis of what I do now. But so anyways, yeah, we got signed to this Canadian record label with my attorney at the time, Chris Taylor, who had a record label, and he was Drake's attorney for a while. He was like the connected guy in Toronto. He opened a lot of doors, and I guess well, there were a few different things that happened. I interned. Intern is a loose term, but there was an electronic duo called Mastercraft. It was called MSTRKRFT from Canada, and they went on to have a big, they're big in the dance electronic scene. Did a lot of really crazy remixes. After I had left this school, I just kind of cold emailed Al P, his name was. He was one of the guys in the duo. I said, "Hey man, I really like your music." Because I was getting exposed now to like electronic music and dance music. For a while it was mostly just, I was like a hip hop guy. Like, yeah, I like this, backpack underground hip hop. So I hadn't really expanded my horizons musically that much yet. So when I first heard that, and I was starting to get into the MySpace era, and like kind of, that was a great time to really discover new music. So I kind of cold emailed this guy and said, "Hey, can I come by the studio and like I'll play you some beats, maybe wrap some cables, get you coffee, whatever." And he was like, "We don't really need anything like that, but sure, come by, like whatever." So I went to these guys, and they were making the really sick music at the time, like, and I still regard them as like influences of mine. And so I spent, I don't know, like a couple months there. I would like sleep on the studio couch. I got to operate a tape machine. They had a crazy Neve analog console there. They had all these vintage synths. And at the time, I didn't really fully grasp what it all was. But now, of course, looking back, I'm like, they had the sickest studio ever. Like, they were really, so that was my first kind of entrance into that world, the world of electronic music, of programming, of analog synths and electronic music, which further branched out. They put me on to like, this is Daft Punk, this is Justice, this is the French house scene, this is the Prodigy, this is industrial dance music, this is all the MySpace, the blog era of like really cool indie music, electronic music coming out, which heavily influenced me. So that was a big turning point for me, meeting those guys.
Did you create with them, or was it always sort of a mentorship, like I'm just here to watch?
It was more of just there to kind of watch, and they were like friends, and also he would be like, yo, go wrap this cable for me or whatever. It was
but I feel like if this were LA,
right.
you'd have some guy who'd be like, yeah, but let me play and let me show you. Like it seems so cordial to say, may I be your assistant for it's like, yes, absolutely. And it's like, let me show you about this music, and you're like, yes, thank you. And you know, it seems so you can only learn if you listen,
right?
And we live in a culture where it's so much look at me without the stuff to look at. So
yes, I was cognizant of that. I knew the hierarchy of things. I didn't want to come in there being like, check out what I got, listen to my beat, maybe you can use my. I was there to like be a fly on a wall and like be a sponge and just learn. And I don't know, I've always kind of had that mentality of like, I'm a guest in your thing, let me try to learn and just shut up and listen and learn. Because I find if I were to come in there and just be like, try to take over and like, you guys want to work with me, that wouldn't have lasted. So I don't know, that's just my way of doing things. But
how do we get to Britney?
So it's kind of in the same world. Chris Taylor, who Mastercraft were signed to his label, he basically, long story short, he got a hold of a beat CD that I had done. It was CDs at the time. Yeah, I just said CD. Yeah.
And so I said it was this compact disc.
We had it on a cassette tape, and
I carved it myself.
It took like an hour to burn a CD. I remember there was like the 2X, 4X, like, I got the 16X now. I can do it in like 5 minutes. But
some of those would skip.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful. You have to...
Made my own label on it, printed out the label. Like, those are the times.
Yeah.
So he had a beat CD of mine that it was very lucky. He phoned me, called me one day, emailed me, whatever it was at the time, and said, faxed. Hey, I don't know if it was even a text.
Faxed you.
Faxed, yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever it was.
Pigeon.
Yeah, and he said, hey, one of your tracks, a big A-level artist did something, recorded a song to one of your tracks, like didn't even say who it was. I'm like, wow, that's great. Like, I don't really know what my goal was at the time. I don't know if my goal was to like, I want to work with the biggest pop stars, or I want to do this. I didn't really have a direction. I was like, I just want to make music, and wherever it goes, that's fine by me. I just wanted to, I enjoyed the process so much. I didn't really care what happened. So I was like, great, let's start. That sounds great to me. Like, I want to, and also I want to get my foot in the door too. I want to like, make stuff start to happen. So that sounded good to me. And it was then eventually revealed that it was Britney Spears, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, and my exposure to pop music, I knew who Britney Spears was, but it was kind of just this like mysterious like pop star. Like, I didn't like, I'm like, how does that work? Like, she's singing on my beat? What does that even mean? Like, I still didn't really grasp.
I still don't know how that would happen.
Yeah.
Do you know if somebody said, hey, Britney recorded on a beat, you'd be like,
right.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so she had gotten a hold of the track there was another writer named Nicole Morier, who was in the studio with Britney, and apparently they had this beat CD, and they were listening through it, and one track caught their attention, and that became this song on her album Circus called Papi. And I mean, that was...
It's weird having, this is important for all of the music makers. Like, you think that you're going to do hip hop because you do hip hop, then you think, maybe I'm going to do dance stuff because I do dance stuff, but I also do hip hop. And then it's right. You walk through open doors, and that person who's, the people who want to cut the song that the authentic hip hop producer, dance producer is doing is somebody who's not in hip hop or dance.
Right.
It's going to be someone who hears this like, wow, this doesn't sound like anything else anyone else is pitching me.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so like it sounded like an outlier, I'm sure then. Did you ever spend time with her?
Not at the time. No, it was kind of a remote thing. I was sent her vocal files, and I was given the opportunity to, like, much like I do now, finish the production. And at the time, now, like, that's like, I know what to do. At the time, I didn't know what finishing, it's like a completely different thing. I mean, you have to think this is like, I don't know, 17, 18 years, maybe even I don't know, something like that, you know. So I was still learning. I didn't know what it was to finish a production. I didn't know what to, how to get her vocal sounding right. Or eventually Tony Maserati mixed it and he made it sound as best as he could. But
Yeah.
I still kind of cringe, like no disrespect to the song and the people who created it. It was a fun song, but I listened back to it. I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing. It was a beat and then they put vocals on top of it. And I kind of like, and I see some comments like it's a fan favorite of some people. They love this song and that's great. But it's funny to see the arc of things. Like, I was still learning. I was still putting in the work.
I mean, the biggest producers in the world and writers in the world were working on Circus.
Yes. No, yeah. And I was listening to, I would hear, I don't know, at some point, some of the album got shared, like, like here, check out the other songs. And I was listening to, I forget who else was on the album. It was like, maybe like, I guess maybe Dr. Luke, Stargate, Bloodshine, Avant. I forget the specific producers, but maybe Darkchild. I was listening to their stuff and I was like, damn, how do I get my stuff to sound like that? Because I was still like in the zone where I'm like, I made something cool that obviously people liked, but I was still at a time where I'm like, I'm listening to this other stuff and I'm like, how do I get my stuff there? Even though I have a song on a Britney album, I still wasn't happy with what I was doing yet. I was like referencing and like thinking like, okay, I got to step my game up. I got to get my stuff to sound like that,
It was an era though when people bought albums and those who created on that album would still listen to the album. So the album tracks at that point still had enough weight within the business that I think people sometimes discovered stuff. And because you're not trying to create music like them, you were trying to create music like you, those other people on that album are noticing who you are.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, I want my stuff to sound like that guy because that sounds fresh and different than what, that the other guys on that you listed all had hundreds of releases at that point.
Right.
And so to them they're just like, yeah, no, I know how this goes.
Yeah.
So what's the next step from there? Because that album had Womanizer on it and had If You Seek Amy obviously with Savin and Max and
of course Max was on that. Yeah.
It's like some massive songs. Like what's next for you? At that point you kind of hit the peak as far as names of people.
Yeah, that was definitely a springboard, that got my kind of, at least got me, got my foot in the door. Like, okay, he's done a song for Britney. Around the same time, or actually maybe even slightly before that, which is polar opposite. I did this song for Britney called Papi. I met The Weeknd, and we did a song called High for This, which was, you couldn't get two, if you chose two you couldn't get two completely different songs if you tried. High for This was a, dark, brooding, atmospheric kind of, almost, it was kind of like I was trying to do dubstep, but it wasn't really dubstep. It was kind of very dark and after hours vibes, very kind of drugged out. So I had done that around the same time. Goes to show how, I don't know, directionless I was, I guess, but whatever. I liked creating all different kinds of stuff. So I had worked with Abel at the time at my studio in downtown Toronto with a few other people, and he just kind of came into my world through mutual friends and people saying, hey, this guy's the next, have you heard this guy, The Weeknd? He's like the next thing. He's like really blowing up in Toronto, not really in the world at all. But so I had a brush with that, early on, unbeknownst to me. I couldn't have predicted he was going to reach the levels he is at now. He's literally one of the biggest artists in the world. But that was happening at the same time, which later on in my story, I guess, would really come into play. But I mean, that song is I still love that song. And then the House of Balloons mixtape was an important kind of piece. It was an important project at the moment. I just did the one song and kind of, but that was
the first song on the mixtape. And anybody who heard that at the time was like, are you allowed to say these lyrics?
Right.
It
was pretty dark. Yeah,
it was so intense. I mean, he was unafraid to say whatever he wanted, but with this being able to sing.
Exactly.
Then how do you get how do you get to LA?
Yeah, so it's a good segue around that time. I guess we're talking like 2011 or so. I had started kind of with some friends of mine. We sort of decided like LA's the place. We got to go to LA. Like this is, Toronto's dead or whatever. Like it wasn't dead, but just seemed like the next big move to make. So me and a couple friends at the time, I'm trying to think I managed to secure a room. It was more like a hallway, but a room in a house not too far from here, actually, in this kind of really close to here, actually. It's funny. I drive by sometimes and think about it, but I had a room there, and I had developed a relationship with a guy named Benjamin Groff, who was at Cobalt at the time, and he was setting up sessions for me. I had a kind of an admin deal there, the Britney opportunity provided that. So I started coming back and forth between LA. I had a little room to stay in here. I went to random sessions. I think my first time in LA, I'm Canadian. I didn't have my social security number. I had my social insurance number. That's Canadian. So I couldn't rent a car. I couldn't get a cell phone. I had to like go on to one of those places on Melrose where you get like the bootleg, like T-Mobile, like thing, whatever. Like, and I think I remember my first session, I think I took the subway. Like it was,
subway.
Yeah, like I was just a fish out of water. Like I lived in Toronto's a big city. It's not like whatever, but LA's a completely different beast. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to take the subway to like Hollywood and Highland and just walk from there. And it was like, obviously, clearly, I'm very, very thankful that I don't have to take the subway anymore because that was crazy.
Walking from Hollywood and Highland. It's not too far. I'll just go all the way to Studio City. You're like exhausted from carrying.
Yeah.
The first time we wrote.
I remember. It was probably not too long after that. I probably got there on the subway. I mean...
I looked at it. I looked it up because I was trying to figure out like how long ago was that? But it was May 18th, 2011.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And song was called Kamikaze with Dan and Leah.
That's right. Yeah.
And I remember them being like, you got this guy's got all the sounds. Like you gotta come in here. And that was when people weren't really using FL here. They weren't using like some of the, and you still use.
I'm on Cubase.
Oh, now you're on Cubase.
By this point, I had,
or maybe
I was on Cubase.
Oh, it was on Cubase, but maybe it was even that. Like people weren't really.
Exactly.
When did you switch DAWs?
Let me think. As soon as we're going back now. I think I discovered Cubase, I just stuck with it. I mean, that was the first time I was actually able to program and record vocals and I understood how it worked. So it was years before that.
Is there an advantage to using Cubase over Logic or Pro Tools or Ableton?
I think it's just what you know. I think that's the most important thing, what you're comfortable with and its capabilities. I mean, I see so many people. I get jealous sometimes. I get envious of people on Ableton Live and I see the stuff they do. I'm like, damn, I wish Cubase could do that. But I think I'm just so comfortable with Cubase. I've been using it for 15, 20 years basically. And it's like second nature to me. I just know how to I just know it inside and out. I know how to use it in my own way. I might not even be using all of the superpower user features, but it's like my instrument, my tool, and my canvas that I just know how to use. So I stuck with it, and it works for me. For a while, I'd have Cubase and Pro Tools open at the same time, and sometimes my computer couldn't even handle it. So I'd be recording vocals in Pro Tools and making the beat in Cubase, and then bouncing the acapella and the instrumental back and forth. And I don't do that anymore, but
there are a lot of there are a lot of people who travel to LA and do the circuit. They go to different studios. They're trying to get they're just going around this rat race of LA. I mean, we met in that rat race.
Yeah.
What gets you out of the rat race? What gets you out of the race to the middle and brought you to the top?
Yeah.
How do you meet Dr. Luke?
Yeah, no, that was a huge turning point. I guess the 10 years prior were sort of the rat race. And then, I guess I met Luke he heard my beats through. So this group that I was in, we were taking some label meetings here and there. We took a meeting at Atlantic Records in New York, and gentleman by the name of Andrew Luftman, I'm sure you guys know. At the time, he was an A&R at Atlantic. He met with our group, and he was like, I don't know if I'm really interested in signing your group, but I kind of like the beats. The production is pretty cool. Like, can you send me just like instrumentals? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So then maybe weeks or months later, I don't know what it was, I got a call from, I think Luke just like called my phone and was like, hey, is this Cirkut? And like, I'm not even used to people calling me Cirkut, really. Like, it was just like, is this I'm like, yeah, what's up? Yeah. Hey man, it's Dr. Luke. Yeah. And I had already kind of been going back and forth between LA, but at the time I was in Toronto, and he said, yeah, maybe we should come out sometime, we should meet. And yeah, long story short, we met, and kind of, I'd never really been, I hadn't been in a publishing or considered being in some kind of production deal with, or publishing or production deal with another producer. I was like, how does this work? Am I going to be kind of like just in a room somewhere making beats? Am I going to be like, is this the right thing for me? I don't know. I'm still kind of early in my career. And, I decided to take the leap of faith, and, we had quite a run together. I was put in a lot of rooms that I wouldn't have necessarily been in otherwise. I was the new kid. I was the new, hey, this Cirkut kid, he makes cool beats, but I wasn't really like tapped in. So yeah, that relationship, it definitely it opened up a lot of doors for me, and I learned a lot.
The second time I hear your name is I'm at APG, and there's a track with Avicii and Flo Rida raps on this track, and
yep.
I write the bridge with Jacob Luttrell.
Right. Yeah.
And I write the bridge, and we do splits, and it's like, I'm about to get, Flo Rida could do no wrong. The Avicii Levels was the biggest track in the world at the time for dance stuff. And I was like, I remember telling a friend of mine who actually lives down the street from here, just being like, I'm about to have like a really big song, just sign splits. Things are good. But Avicii sold the track to Levels to Universal, and they couldn't sell the Etta James sample. So
right.
They went to Luke to reproduce the track to Good Feeling.
Yes.
And the next time I hear it is a call from Mike saying, hey, you're not on the song anymore.
Oh no.
We cut the bridge.
Oh no.
And there was at the time there were no, like, I can't think of.
I didn't realize.
I know.
Sorry.
I've waited 15 years to talk to you about it. We've written a lot since then. I still love you. Yeah. It's all good. But it's a weird thing. Like, there were no instrumental parts at that point. Like, you can't think of a song that had a solo. There were no solo guitar parts. Yeah. Songs just didn't have that.
Right.
And then in comes, they even did a version where they kept your bridge
yeah.
and then kept the Flo Rida top line over that.
Yes.
So like, I heard that version, was like, okay, we're still in.
Yeah.
And then it was like, the song's coming out tomorrow. You're not on the song anymore. Song was really big though. Congrats on that. Good feeling. I still hear it all the time.
Yeah. I didn't know that backstory. That's
yeah. That's for you and me in our safe place. No one's ever going to hear that story now.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because, like, you're talking about Domino and Good Feeling, and just start going down the list of, what, You to One was on there?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you starting to think it's easy at that point? Because it's just part of me. I'm just going down the list. Some of these you're a producer on, some you're a songwriter
right.
on.
Yeah.
Die Young. These are massive. Where Have You Been?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wrecking Ball. I mean, this is might as well, because like we've got time to get to the post Dr. Luke era. Roar, Dark Horse. Timber. What was the thing that you brought that is is so undefinable for those who aspire to be
Mm.
a hit producer?
I mean, I think a lot of it was timing. I came in at a good time where, people like in that kind of situation, like Benny had been kind of, sort of me before me. He had been kind of under his wing, and in that, and there's been other producers who have sort of worked alongside with him. And I think I just came in at a right time where I was getting good, and what I was doing was just really it's what was needed, I guess, for this partnership between us to work, between Luke and I to work. He was doing a lot, making a lot of the moves. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna be, in the studio with blah 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 with Katy Perry, like." Make some, start some track, so I would make a bunch of beats and like get them ready. And um I definitely took it seriously. Like I knew that not everyone was getting these opportunities, so I was like, I'm gonna strike while the iron's hot. This is my chance to like, because it could have easily been like sign with Luke and then didn't quite work out and whatever. But I knew that this was a big pivotal moment, and I had to like really seize the opportunity. So I just like I worked a lot, man. I mean, I still work hard, but like I didn't have a life, like, and it wasn't against my will. I chose this. I was like, I didn't have a life, didn't have a girlfriend, and like talk to my family. I was just working nonstop. So everything that Luke was bringing in, all of the artists he was already working with, I was like, let's go, let's do it. I said yes to everything, and was just like, let's go. And that resulted in all the songs you just mentioned. I mean, not every single thing was the same thing, but we just kept going. I just kept working, like, what's the next song? Okay, let's do this. And made a ton of tracks together, and like starts of songs that we would send out to writers, and those became some of those songs too. You to One, I remember being so excited first hearing that, because I knew Esther Dean she's the one who writes all the Rihanna songs, and we had made this beat, and I think it was sent to her, and I remember getting it back and hearing Esther Dean on over, like, wow, I made this beat and Esther Dean's vocals are on it, and that was a big moment for me, like hearing that. Yeah, and it was around that point I started realizing, like, okay, I can, like, I got this, I can do this. You know, yeah, and that whole era went on to be both a fruitful partnership and also a learning experience. I'm soaking everything in again. I'm sitting there. Oh, now I know this is how you record vocals. This is how guys like Max Martin are around. I'm watching him. I'm watching everybody, and I'm soaking it in. I'm becoming not just sort of a cool sound beat maker guy, and I'm becoming like, okay, I know how to be in the room with an art. I know how to be in the room with Katy Perry. She's sitting right there, and I know how to interact with her and not just be the weird kid on the laptop, like, because I was the weird kid on the laptop for a while. But I'm learning how to interface with these, and how the room works, and how the chemistry works, and what to say, what not to say. And that was my boot camp. That was my cutting my teeth, and learned how to write, produce pop music, and it was the perfect thing. I mean, it was the perfect opportunity.
Session etiquette is something that isn't really taught. It's something learned. I wish it
Yeah.
was taught to songwriters, because I think it can be really valuable.
Right.
You're working in the room in very high pressure situations with the biggest artists and the biggest songwriters in the world. Briefly, what's it like to work with Max Martin?
Max is just, I mean, I look up to him so much. I think he's an amazing person, a talent. I consider him, yeah, he's one of the greats, of course. I think there's always the initial sort of like, ooh, it's Max, like, even though like he FaceTimes me here and there, we talk. It's not like he's, I know him now, but it's still like, ooh, Max is in the room, like he has that sort of presence to him. And he just, yeah, he has such a command of such an understanding of, and a command of pop music in general, not just pop music, but just music, and his ability to, his melodic sense, coupled with his big picture producer mind. He's able to listen to a song and, I think this chorus should be repeated twice. Maybe that melody could go up there. The bridge isn't good. Do that. He's able to make these like these big edits of songs, but also just as a artistic, just as a creator, he gets on this SM7 and he'll sing the most beautiful melody you've ever heard. Like just as a he has it all, you know. So I don't know. I have a great deal of respect for him and his body of work, and you know, I mean, he's Max. Like there's
When
no other.
when he sings, it sounds like the radio.
Yeah.
There's
Oh yeah.
it's hard. We all know the math.
Yes.
So we're trying to sing, you know, and we're all pretty close.
Yeah.
You know, generally speaking, like I'm by we, I mean like the writers in LA who've been around long enough, like they know how to make something that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, but there's something about the choices he makes that sounds like it was always here.
Yes. Yeah.
Before we move on, because and the reason why I'm stopping here is because in 2014 you win Producer of the Year for the Juno Awards.
Yeah.
You know, so you know that's why I'm putting this landmark. But what's it like working with Dr. Luke in a room?
I'd say, you know, it developed over time. I think initially it was very much sort of more of a sort of teacher student vibe that maybe I even was self-imposed. I'm not saying he even created that environment. It was more like, I'm here, I'm the young kid, I'm here to learn. I'm not gonna like, I'm just gonna do what I do best and like kind of just observe. I think as years went on, as we started to make songs like with Katy Perry and Miley Cyrus, and you know, I was realizing what I bring to the table. I was no longer just, you know, the kid who got lucky and was making cool beats, and it automatically gets to, you know, I had a big hand in those records. You know, they might have started with a track that I had made, which contained chords that then resulted in melodies, and then, you know, I was instrumental in creating those. So I kind of gained a bit of confidence. I was like, I got this. You know, I'm doing this too. It's not. I'm no longer kind of the understudy, second fiddle to Luke. You know, like, I mean, he's still a massive producer, and I'm just whatever. But I gained the confidence that like, okay, I can do this. And I guess that was a big turning point. You know, to arrive at that.
Yeah, the first note I wrote after I wrote the intro was, "Where's your ego and why aren't you an asshole?" I mean, it's a weird, you know, again, like in LA. Look, I mean, Benny's not an asshole at all. He's like one of the sweetest, but he's a character in the room.
Absolutely.
You know, like
Luke
is a character in the room. You know, even Max, he's his own character in the room.
Yeah.
A lot of we go down the list. Most of the, you know, Watt, who was sitting there at one point when we were talking about who his favorite producer is. I don't know if you saw that, but
I did.
It was Cirkut.
That,
you know, Cirkut.
My heart. I loved it,
if you will. But you know, it's like these guys have this not just confidence, but and you know, lowercase ego. Even it's like sometimes uppercase, but you know, it's still this idea of like they own a room in a way that feels like a different thing. Where's your ego?
I think I have an ego. I have a competitive spirit. I have you know, a drive, and you know, maybe it doesn't always show on the outside, but I do on the inside. I want to win. I want to do the best work I can do, and I want to, you know, it's healthy competition. I'm not hoping for anyone else fails, but you know, I've got to have some kind of fire and drive in me, or else like what's the point, you know, like what does this all mean? You know, you know, I want to be great, and you know, I don't know, I just am who I am. I don't know, you know, I try when I see people who operate with big egos, I'm like, I don't want to be like that, you know, like not everyone's got their own thing, you know, like if, you know, that's your style, that's cool, but I can't really change who I am. I guess that's just how I am. But I don't know, I feel like everyone has their own style, and in the studio, yeah, you might have the people who are a lot more kind of leading, like, this is what we need to do, this is the song, I have the idea, you need to sing this. I'm not that guy, but I kind of sometimes think that the quiet one in the room, you know, I'm sitting back, you might think my back is to you, I'm not really listening, but I'm listening to everything that's going on. I'm sitting there, I might be making some drums or programming a bass line, but I'm listening to everything. I know what's going on. I'm aware. I'm making changes as, oh, they're working on the pre-chord. Okay, let me start doing that. Let me do, you know, so I don't know if that's necessarily ego, but I'm in my own way. I'm commanding and having a presence without being too like, here I am. I don't know.
No, it's such a joy when you're in the room with you because you clearly have confidence. Like the way you can start an idea, the way you can reference music that isn't part of the American zeitgeist, and you're you're right away moving into creation in a way that's exciting, and not you're not pulling up drums from the last session,
Right.
and you're not pulling up like something. It's always like really fresh and very fast.
Right.
For it's like you just go into like Steph Curry mode of creations. Like, NMPA is our lead sponsor yet again. What is the National Music Publishers Association? What do publishers have to do with songwriters anyway? Well, unlike artists who can be unsigned artists, there is no such thing as an unsigned writer. You can be a self-published, a co-published, or a published writer. Publishers only make money if songwriters make money. So, NMPA goes and fights for you. They go to Congress, they go and support the community, they fight DSPs to get you paid more. That's what they do. They fight for you, and they fight for this podcast. So thank you for fighting for songwriters, NMPA, and thank you for fighting for us too. Okay, so I use Splice, and I'm pretty sure every producer who listens to this uses Splice, but if you don't, you need to start using Splice. They have the most incredible licensing library that you can go through for any kind of samples you can think of, but they take care of their original creators. In fact, they just came out with a beta version of their AI suite. Unlike its competitors that we know that may not take care of the original creators, every time you use Splice's AI tool, it triggers a licensing event for those original creators. So there's not a better company that I can think of right now that you can use where you can use the efficiency of AI and also know that you're taking care of the creators, and that is Splice.
For sure.
It seems like you get into the zone really easily.
I do. Yeah.
So I definitely think like confidence is like I would describe you as very confident. I would describe you as really nice.
I think you're very nice.
Oh. How do you work so fast?
That's an interesting. I did actually think about that when I watched Watt was on the podcast when he mentioned, which was very nice of him to say I'm his current favorite producer, first of all. But then he mentioned he's so fast, amongst other things. He said he's so fast in the studio, and it got me thinking. Sometimes you have to reflect inwardly and look at yourself and like, what do I do? Like, what makes what I do great, or what are my skills? And when I think about, oh, I'm fast, I'm not always cognizant of that, but I guess I do work fast. And at the end of the day, when someone listens to a song, they don't care if it was made in a couple hours or if it took months and months. It just is the song. So speed doesn't always matter, but I think in the few instances when it does matter is when you're in the studio I'm in the studio with Lady Gaga, Watt, whoever, I mean, the pressure's on. I mean, like we're chilling, but there is pressure. You want to make a great song. You want to deliver. I think there's always that kind of moment where if you're spending too long pulling up give me 1 second, like this kick's not right, or this thing, the vocal, if you're doing, you might have lost the magic. You might have lost it. So I've always prided myself on like, okay, yeah, it's ready to go. Yeah, give it a second. Yeah, here we go. Like, start the song, get the song going. I always love when I start a little, whether it's a beat, whether if someone might have played some chords, I'll do some drums, whatever it is, and someone's like, "Whoa, that's great! That already sounds so great!" Like, I like that because there is something to be said for being excited about the idea you're working on. If you're just working on 4 chords and it's on a dull, shitty piano sound or something, like, yeah, the song might end up being great, but like, I want to be excited. I want it to sound good. I want it to. So I try to accomplish that early on in the session so that everyone's like hyped about it, and that can really set the tone for the rest of the session because people might be on there. Yeah, we like this one. They might come up with a great chorus melody because everyone's feeling it. I'm
Yeah,
trying to serve. I'm trying to curate the best environment, I guess.
your sonic choices are unparalleled, and so it seems like the speed coincides with good choices and high quality choices. What tools do you use to make your records?
There is a little bit of an X factor to it because I've seen some people who have these amazingly organized 24 terabytes of folders of hard drive of kick samples, this style of snare, this style of thing, it's also. I have some organization, but I'm not nearly that organized. So sometimes a lot of it is kind of on the fly, and I'm just sort of throwing paint at the wall, and I don't always know. Like, I might hear in my head, like, oh, I think this type of kick would be good for this song. So I'll know the exact file name and search it up. It's not in some nicely organized folder. It's just I know I want that, and I'll plug it in. And even before listening to it, I might put a saturation plug-in, I might put a compressor, a little transient and designer, and I know what it's going to sound like before I even hit spacebar, which is sometimes a thing I do that's very weird, but I'll just like blind make something, and I'll be sort of listening to it a millisecond at a time, but I almost don't want to hear it yet because I want the spontaneity of when I hit it, and it's fresh to me, it's surprising to me, rather than hearing the same 4 bars over and over and over, adding to it. I like to just do a bunch of things and then hit play. I don't know. That's something I do. It's weird, but sometimes that produces interesting results where, it's just unexpected and different and something I wouldn't have. It wasn't overthought. I don't know. I go with my gut and my feel and my intuition. Really, I just there's not really one set way or formula. I kind of just, depending on the situation, depending on the song, I'm gonna do my best to find the right sounds and find the right vibe and make it happen.
But even somebody who plays in the box a lot, it's fun watching how you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna quantize this instrument. I'm not gonna quantize that thing.
Right.
And I think a lot of people who primarily work in a computer,
Yep.
Part of why it sounds like they work in a computer is because they make it sound like it works in a computer, and
Right.
you just naturally you've made it your instrument.
Yeah. And I'm definitely very cognizant of that. I never want to suck the life out of a performance or a composition. Even though if I am making it on a computer, which might include live instruments and stuff that's more off the grid, but I don't want it to sound. I still want it to sound organic, and I don't want to suck the life out of it. If I'm, tuning a vocal, like, it's very easy. It's such a delicate touch. You can quickly all of a sudden, oh, this sounds really bad. Like, I'm very careful of, I want to keep this little accent here. I want to make sure this glides right. I got to make sure the retune speed on the auto, if we're using autotune, that it's catching that note right. There's so many small little details where I want it to sound pleasing and organic and not overly computerized. Unless that's the vibe. Sometimes the vibe is computerized and you just want like pure autotune vocal synths all on the grid, but I try to be, everything is so, in production, it's nuances, it's like the tiniest little things, like, oh, this snare's a little bit, it's 20 milliseconds ahead, and that's why like live drums sound so good, is because every single hit is different. It's like a little bit off this way, it's it's pleasing. So sometimes mixing synthetic, a perfectly programmed bass line with some live drums is a really cool contrast. I've been playing with that a lot, with like programmed drums, real bass, live drums, fake bass, like that contrast. I mean, there's many, examples of that in recorded music, but I don't know.
How did you get back with Abel for Starboy? It's been a little bit of time since, I guess you always had a good relationship, but 9 songs on an album isn't just, dabbling. That's doing an album.
Yeah, I guess. Well, we hadn't really Abel and I hadn't really been in touch personally, but I think my name started to kind of make it the rounds as he was going through this album. I think he reached a point where he liked the songs on Starboy, but I don't want to speak for him, but my understanding was that the songs he's like, the productions need to be sort of elevated and finished, and my name came up in the mix. And basically it started with the song Starboy. I think that was the first
Crazy.
song I worked on. Went to the studio, and Abel was there. He's like, "Hey man, haven't seen you in a long time. What's going on? I haven't seen you since," I guess, yeah, it hadn't been since Pi for this. So this was like 7 years later, something like that. And he, of course, had gone on to, he was a lot bigger at this point already. He had done, I Can't Feel My Face and a whole bunch of other great songs. And so, yeah, it started with Starboy. He just kind of gave me the files. He's like, "Yo, I did this song with Daft Punk. Like, I just want to see what you do with it." Like, he still, even after all those years, he still, like, kind of, I had an effect on, like, he knew what I did, I guess. Like, so he entrusted me to, like, work on that, which was cool, like, even though I had done other things that he was aware of, and, in all those years. But anyways, yeah, I started on Starboy and worked on that, and he was happy with it. Daft Punk, Thomas from Daft Punk came over from France, and we got in the studio for a second, which was a big moment for me. Like, Daft Punk, I'm big fan of their music and admire them very much. So to be not only in the studio with them, but collaborating, co-producing with a song with them that they basically entrusted me with, and then for me to play it back and them to be like, "Yeah, it's good," that was a good big moment, because it would have sucked if I played it back in there. They were like, "Oof." Yeah, that would have been bad. No, but they loved it, and that led to me working on, what was it, eight songs on the album, or 9? You said? I don't even. Yeah,
I say
the rest of it, basically. Yeah,
9 says my notes.
yeah, and
how many versions of Starboy did you do?
I don't think it was too many versions, to be honest. I think might have been multiple bounces, like, as progress was made, but it wasn't completely different versions where, like, I tried something completely different at a totally different tempo, and then, we went back to this one. It wasn't really versions. It was more like just getting it there, getting along the way. And yeah, so doing that and then being happy with that led to, well, here's another song for you to do, So this was all songs that already been written. I came in, this wasn't me in the room starting stuff from scratch, which it was a cool, I enjoyed that, I like being there from the beginning and writing it with everyone, but I also like coming in as like, "Hey, do your thing," like, just not even a lot of direction. Abel would come in and say, like, "Hey, maybe I kind of want these drums to be a bit more like 808 drums, or this kind of," he'd give a little, but he kind of just gave me free reign, like, just do what you do. And that was cool.
I mean, you do that also with, like, right after that, like, Girls Like You, which is like,
Yeah.
also just massive. Probably, I don't know, of the number one songs you have, it's got to be in the top 3 as long as
It is
running,
one of the biggest ones, yeah.
Yeah. And that's your second with them, obviously you had Sugar earlier and whatnot.
Yep.
At some point, when did you start realizing that you are you starting to manage your time better, or are you still working yourself 7 days a week?
I think
24/7 kind of.
I think I was maybe still doing some weekends. I was working quite a bit still. It was still my main focus. I was not like, "I'm trying to settle down and have a nice life." I was still like, "Let's go."
Yeah.
So yeah, I was still working a lot, and just, I don't know, that was my life at the time. I mean, I just, that's all I knew. That's all I wanted it. This is what I wanted to do. This is I'm living my dream. I mean, I'm working with so many amazing people, and
I think it was right about this time that I came to the house that you were renting before you moved, and worked on a couple tracks that you did. And that was the first time I met Ava, who, going through the idea of signing an artist, developing an artist. Was it a conscious decision of, I'm going to now act a little bit more as like a record label and a record exec? Did it change the way you produced because you are now also wearing a tie a little bit? Metaphorical tie,
yeah, metaphorical tie, yeah. I guess that was definitely, I had to put on a different hat for that one. It wasn't like, this was Ava was a unknown artist who was talented, but it just basically was absolutely unknown. I got to sort of take sort of this core of something that I had belief in, that I thought there's something great here. And once we had a few kind of demos and songs, I did kind of play sort of the hat of like, I sent it around to a bunch of different people. I sent it to different labels at the time. I don't even remember who, but I took a few label meetings with her. I was kind of the guy like, I'm going to take you to this label and take you around, and, because I wanted to help her. I wanted to, that seemed like the next, we're going to get you signed kind of thing. And, we eventually I sent it to Mike Karen, who I had known for years, and we had worked on other stuff together. And basically, yeah, he signed Ava Max, and we had a good little run there. There were some hits that came out of that. And, it did force me to kind of wear a different hat. Like I had to
Do you like that hat?
That particular hat, that's a specific hat. That's a particular hat, that one. I don't
Fair.
No, but I do like the idea of, maybe I haven't done it as much, but I have the desire to do something like that again, to take something from the ground up and take it all the way, kind of thing. Partnered with the right people, of course. I couldn't do it on my own, that's for sure. So that was that was an interesting time, and some great songs came from it, and yeah, forced me to kind of think more big picture about, like, I'm not just trying to get the single with this big artist. I'm trying to make a lot of songs, write with a lot of different people, and also have to sort of convince people, like, hey, you should work on this, because, like, you kind of have to make it happen too. So.
And another Mike Karen anecdote. This is going back. This, and this is another one of those, like, I've been fortunate enough to ring the bell a few times, but it's not everything is a hit, and sometimes you're literally, there's a documentary called 20 Feet from Stardom, and it's about backup singers.
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
You can be really close to some moments where you're like, oh man. And one of those, another Mike Karen moment / Cirkut moment is, I am in a room. Pitbull's in town, and there's 2 rooms going, and he needs a single really fast. And I'm in a room with Mozella, and the other room is Money Long, or Priscilla and Renee at the time.
Yeah.
And we're listening to the track, and Flo Rida had just had Whistle, and in comes Timber.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Timber yet. It was just a track with a harmonica. So we wrote a song called Harmonica, and the next room wrote Timber. I missed that one. I was in the wrong room. But I mean, to be fair, I don't know. I don't know what
might be time
happen.
for another harmonica track. I don't know.
We'll get back at it. That's our next session. It's weird because you look at your discography and it feels like you never miss. Do you feel like there are songs that should have been hits that weren't, or is it that you're 100%?
I mean, I think about this sometimes when people ask me, and I think about it just for my own self. The answer is I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. I think it's very much a combination of a lot of different things. I think it's luck. It's being in the right place at the right time. It's working with other amazing people. I happen to find myself surrounded by great people. I give myself credit to. I've been doing this for a long time now. I'm almost 40. I've been doing it for like 15 years professionally, so a lot can happen in that span of time. And I've worked a lot at it, so I don't know. But I don't know. It's a combination of things. I'd like to believe sometimes it's my feel and my instincts for things. To give myself a little bit of credit. It's so many different things. I mean, I don't always know, to be honest. I don't always know when I'm working on a song. I might think, this is sounding great, and then, well, so much for that one. Or I'm not so, I don't know about this one, and then it becomes the biggest thing in the world. I don't,
When have you been so wrong in a good way?
Let me think. So wrong in a good way. I don't know. There's so many songs. It's hard to think of it.
Well, let's go and tell this story, because this one was a story where I know it's a unexpected way of how it happened. Okay. Tell me how Unholy was created.
Yes. Okay. That is an unexpected one. Yeah, you're right. Well, Sam Smith and I and a bunch of other people. I mean, it was Omer, Blake, Jimmy Napes, Ilya. Am I forgetting anyone? Okay. We were in Jamaica. Sam Smith. I'd worked with Sam maybe one or two other times. Nothing fruitful really came from it, but Sam liked working together, and I was invited along to work there. And it was kind of like a camp vibe, like multiple rooms at first, like, we'll work in this room and then we'll split up over here and come together, see what we do. And the first day of that wasn't great. Nothing really great came out of it, and the vibe just wasn't right. So I think it was the second day or the third. I don't know which day it was, but we all just decided, let's all just do something in the same room, even though it's like 7 of us. Let's just kind of see what happens. And I don't know, one thing led to another, and that became the seed of what became Unholy. Basically, there were a few different versions. Sam kind of went off with Jimmy. They would go off and on a walk and work on the lyrics, and they came back with me and Ilya, and we're all in there nerding out and banging on percussion and doing voice notes of percussion and playing. Ilya's making the drums and whatever. We're all just kind of contributing what we can to it, and it's starting to sound really sick. It's starting to come together, and then Sam and Jimmy come back in, and they have essentially what Unholy was, but the lyrics were a lot more like, it was a bit more vulgar, if you will. I don't know if that version even exists or is around or floating around, but it was just a little, it was different. I don't remember the lyrics, but it was a version of it. And I don't know whose idea it was to like kind of, maybe let's dial it back a little bit. Let's keep it more about but yeah, that was, so we had the song essentially, and we kind of all came away from that camp being like, I don't know if we really like got the one. Like, I don't know, like, this was fun, but Unholy it's a fun, cool thing that we made, but maybe it'll be like an interlude or an intro or something, or it's just a fun little moment. And boy, was I wrong on that, and boy, was I think everyone else. I don't think anyone else called it either. No one was like, except Sam. I think Sam really ended up championing it and really saying like, no, this is the song, to the label and to everyone. This is the song I wanna. This is it. And I'm sure at the time they were like, really, this song? It was like this sort of 2-minute odd something song with very, very different from anything Sam's ever done. And it just goes to show, you never know. I mean, that was unexpected. I forgot. Yeah.
7 is working with Jung, Kook, and then that team is a first time I think that I remember you working with Watt. And,
yeah.
But that song is probably still top 10 on Spotify, like globally, like right now. I mean, the song just lives up there.
Yeah.
I feel like that's also one of those where maybe you expected it. I don't know what the expectations are, but it's the last place right now where it feels like people are willing to take outside songs so with joy, the way artists had always been,
right.
It feels like K-pop, and that they love great songs and they don't care who writes it.
Exactly.
Why not dive further into the K-pop world?
Well, I think I've dived in quite a bit. I mean, you mean more?
Well, I guess we'll get to Apate.
Okay,
that was pretty big too. We're gonna get to that. So,
but you mean at the time? Yeah. Well, I guess that was kind of my first entrance into the K-pop world, working with Jungkook and BTS, and it was that was basically a song that Watt and I had made the beat. It was our first time working together, and we'll get to more of me and Watt later in our working dynamic, but we made that beat. It was kind of sitting around for a while, send it around to a few writers. I don't know what happened. I think basically John Bellion had a version of it. He wrote something to the track. I sent it to Theron. He had a version of it. And I think Watt and I, we kind of, I don't know. I'm sure they weren't too happy about that, but like we were like, let's take this part from this part and this part, do the old Frankenstein it together and pick the best parts. I don't know. That's just what it was. And I think at one point we had some kind of hook, and Watt, this just goes to show Watt, his one of his strengths is just, I think he told Theron, like, this hook is good, but it needs to be like simpler, which is, of course, we all say that, but Theron came back with, oh, you want simple? Let me give you the days of the week. Okay, let me give you, yeah. And that became the hook. We were like, that's great. It's just so simple and hooky and catchy. Good. And I mean, he's the best. I love him. I've known him for actually a really, really long time.
Yeah, I mean, you did a lot of Our Cities. If this must have been a really cool, kind of reunion
for sure. Yeah. So that was cool. Eventually it got kind of into the hands of the BTS system, and Jungkook heard it and loved the song and got in with him in the studio. We cut the song. He was he was just so professional. He sang it beautifully, and it came out and it was a hit. Like it was one of those, it was like, this is a great pop song. This is really catchy, and like this sounds like it should be a hit, and it was. I mean, wasn't much kind of wondering on that one, and there were people doing their things behind the scenes.
Charli XCX, Brat is maybe the most influential album of that year. I think you could, to me, that's that album of the year. And doing 360 and being a part of that, you'd worked with Charli. I mean, everyone had worked with Charli as a top liner, and and something as an artist. What is it that Charli does as an artist that is so unique in this era?
I think she's daring. I think daring is a word. I think that's a way to put it. I think Brat, just as a album and as a identity and as a whole project, is just, she really just committed to that. Like, this is what I'm gonna do, and who could have predicted it would become the cultural phenomenon that it was? But she really believed in it, and like, this is the sound I'm gonna do. And I mean, just her ability to combine different sounds and different worlds, and really knowing what she wants too. Like sometimes artists are like, oh, I don't really know if I want. She just like, yeah, this is it.
It's really authentic.
Oh, it is.
It's so authentically her.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think this is an era where authenticity is currency, and
Exactly. People can see through it, and they can tell whether it's real or not. And she's the real as it gets. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some of the songs from this year, because I know it's been a long time, but this is your fault, not mine. I didn't write all these songs. This is
fun to take a little trip down memory. I'm like trying to.
Apate is, Theron back in this story too.
Yeah.
Bruno, how does Apate get made?
So, I was in the studio with Rosie. Let me see if I want to make sure I remember everyone. Rosie, Omer, Roger, Theron. Who else is in there?
I mean, the actual song has so many writers on it. Amy, obviously.
Of course. How could I forget him?
Amy, Philip Lawrence, and obviously
Philip Lawrence. They came in later.
Bruno.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways, it was all of us in a room. Sometimes it's hard to remember everything. All of us in a room. We had kind of 2 days together, all of us, and there was no real like direction or goal in mind. It was kind of like, just see what happens. And I think the first day we made a couple things that were sort of cool, and who knows, maybe they'll end up being something later, but we kind of went away from it like, let's try again tomorrow kind of thing. And then APT happened on the second day. We were, I think, again, messing with a different idea, and I'd kind of hit pause on it. We were taking a break from it, and Rosie started sort of in the background. We were like just kind of not really listening, but she was like going like, I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know how to play the game. She was doing it, to showing someone like, hey, this is this thing. And I think it was maybe Theron who turned around and was like, what's that? And he's so good at it. He's like, what's that? And she's like, "Oh no, is that a song? Is that no, it's like a drinking game. It's not even a song, isn't it?" He's like, "That needs to be a song." And we're like, "Yeah, that needs to be," because it has like just this rhythm to it. It's this interesting thing. Like it felt like a hook. It felt like we're like, let's do that, so we could quickly pivoted and we dropped whatever other song we were working on and just like went in on that. And I quickly, of course, started got to work and started programming the drums to the kind of the Rosie kind of worked out the rhythm of how, I don't know if that's exactly how you heard in the song how the game goes, I don't know, but she worked it out into sort of, she formed it into, okay, this is a singable hook. And then I kind of did the drums to it, and I always heard like a kind of cheerleadery sort of, that is just what it felt like to me. So that sort of set the tone for it. And then we started building it, like Omer had some I think he did the chords on the pre-chorus. Roger started playing some horns, and I forget who did exactly what, but anyways, by the end of the day, we had that song. And the first iteration of it, which isn't exactly how it ended up. There were a few more versions. I think a lot of time went by, go move on and work on other things. And then I think one day Rosie, I'm pretty sure she's said this in an interview before, so I can say it, but I don't know. I think her team they were like worried about, they were like, delete the song. Don't like play this song for anyone. Like, we're not sure how we feel about this. I don't know why, because it's not like it's offensive, but they were just like, no, like, don't play this for anyone. It's not. And then a few weeks later, they're like, actually, no, it's fine. It's good. We like it now. I don't know why, but I guess because it was like a drinking game. Maybe they didn't. I don't know what the story was, but eventually, I don't know. Kind of you know how time goes by in between records. You're kind of like, oh, this is that song. They're just sitting on a hard drive now, and like, eventually, I think it was Brandon Davis at Atlantic who texted me, "Yo, Bruno loves the song. Rosie played it for him at they were in Vegas or something. I don't know where they played. He heard it." And then I got a text from him shortly after, like, "Yo, Cirkut, I heard APT, man. I love the song. Like, yeah, I just gotta put my stank on it a little bit, man. That's how Bruno." He texted me like, "I gotta put my stank on it." And I'm like, let's go. Put your stank on. It needs that. So he got involved, and I think I was in the studio with Bruno and Rosie and Philip Lawrence came in. He was there writing lyrics, and we kind of, over the course of the next few days, Bruno got involved. And when he gets involved, he gets involved. Okay, he's not like just, I'll just record my verse and record the hook and I'm done. He wants to be involved in the production. He's talking to Rosie about video ideas. He's talking about like giving her advice on what she should do with her career, and like, which is great coming from someone like Bruno. He's incredible. So yeah, we had a fun time. Bruno came in and he played live drums on the whole thing. He played it over my program drums, really brought it to life, played a whole bunch of instruments on it, rewrote the bridge, which I think is such a great part in the song, and just really further enhanced just the identity of the production and of the song. And he had Rosie in the booth. He was like coaching her. She's like, "Am I singing it right?" He's like, do it again. Like, in a good way. It wasn't weird. It was just like, he was like getting the best performance out of the artist kind of thing, and he was, so I got to see him in action. And I had worked with him like once before maybe, but I got to really see him in his zone. And he's an animal. He's just like playing 3 different drum kits, playing this and that. Like, I love his energy, and he's hilarious.
The interpolation, and I'm going to put it in quotes, of Mickey.
Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions about it, but at first I want to ask how it happened before I give my opinion on it.
Well, it wasn't a forethought. It was an after. It wasn't. We didn't plan on it. We didn't say,
who demanded it?
Man, I don't even know. I don't know. I'm not even saying that's for like legal. I don't even know. At some point it came to our attention, like, they send it off to musicologists to make sure, and it came back. We got a hit. It's, it's kind of like this, kind of like Hey Mickey. And I could see, okay, I could see where you're coming from with that, but I didn't think close but no cigar kind of thing to me. It was like, yeah, it's in maybe that world. It's got kind of the chanty thing with those, but I don't know. Anyways, no hard feeling. We ended
No,
up clearing it, and it is what it is. But like,
I just think
it wasn't a fourth. It wasn't like, hey, we're gonna sample Mickey and we're gonna do a song like Mickey. Hey, Mickey, you're so fine. It wasn't. It was an after thing, and it is what it is.
It's just that labels shouldn't weaponize musicology against their own creatives.
Yeah.
And that their job should be to defend other people saying, hey, this is like Mickey in the future, should that person come forward. And to preemptively do that is really stupid for a label to do. And they all do it. And
I agree.
They have legal precedent on their side. And to be actively shopping potential interpolations is something that labels should check themselves, because they're leaving millions on the table because they're so afraid of a potential lawsuit in which they have legal precedent on their own side.
Right.
So it is not their asset to share. And as far as I'm concerned, the label should pay you guys back. Okay.
I like that take.
Okay, so we have to talk about Lady Gaga, Mayhem.
Yes.
Huge album. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, she'd gone through a lot of albums and a lot of phases in her life. And then you guys come together. How did that happen?
Basically, Watt hit me up. We had been working for, we had done Seven together. We had done, we did Hold Me Closer, which was Elton and Britney. We did that together. We had started, we had a bunch of other things that were unreleased. We kind of had just we were in a really good groove. We were doing a lot of great stuff together. And, just more about the way we work together. We complement each other so well. Like we do very different things. Our skill sets are very different. And, so we just got into a groove. We were making great stuff. And one day we were just kind of, I don't know, we were making some stuff. We were making some tracks maybe. And he told me, he's like, man, what's the next big thing we're going to work on? Like he's always thinking, he's like, what's the next thing? I'm like, I don't know. Like we should do something like really big, like a really big artist. He's like, okay, I'm going to work on something. I'm going to like find something. And then, I don't know, a few weeks later, months later, it might have been even months later. It was just sort of this idea, like we got to do something big, And he calls me, he said, I've been talking to Gaga. He had known her through, I don't know if he had actually worked with her, or if they just kind of knew each other through just music. They had met anyways. And he said, she wants to work. I want us to do this together. I'm like, holy shit, amazing. Yeah, I would love to. Like that's, so he brought me in, and, I'm thankful for that. And yeah, it started with, we had the first day in the studio. We were working at a studio, not too far from here. And, it was, we clicked eventually. At first there's always sort of she's Lady Gaga, I've worked with a lot of different big artists before. I've, been in big rooms and whatnot, but this was still like, this was a big moment for me, like I feel like I've been a fan of her music for a long time. It's been such a part of just the zeitgeist of music and culture. And like, I've been influenced by her music, in the world of electro pop music and pop music in general. Like she's just a force, so going into this, I had very high, like, okay, I gotta really kill this. Like I want this to be, if I'm going to be working on it, I don't want this to be the best thing ever. So yeah, we got in, we started with just sort of a couple of days. And, I think the first song we did was a song called Vanish Into You. And, at first it was kind of, you're feeling people out, you're kind of like, I could tell she was, and not as she should. She was kind of feeling me out, like how what's the chemistry like? Is he doing things that I like? Is he like, what are his sounds like? Because she knew my work and what I had done, but she was sort of feeling me out, like like you do with any session. Like, is this working? Is this, So I sensed it was kind of like maybe a little bit of a trial run at first, like, but you know, um, we quickly formed a bond, and we clicked, and went on to basically create essentially the whole album together, minus 2 songs. But it was amazing. It was a long process. We can talk about more specific parts of it, but it was amazing. I had a blast. It was rewarding. It was fulfilling. It was draining. It was emotionally. It was hard. It was
Why was
all
it
these
draining?
things. It was just a lot of hard work. It was over the period.
How long did it take to make the thing?
About a year. Yeah.
Oh.
Which I guess depending on what you compare it to, it could be either some people spend many years on an album, so that's not a lot of time, but nowadays a year of like solid time is kind of it's a long time.
I interrupt you. Why was it Why was it draining?
I think not in any negative way on anyone's part in particular. It was just we were working really hard at it, and Watt and I really wanted to, felt, or at least I'll speak for myself, I felt like I had something to prove, even though, whatever, I've done what I've done. But I feel like with every new thing, I always want to I want to do the best thing I can possibly do. I want this to be the best Lady Gaga album ever. That's what I had in my head. So I kind of put that pressure on myself, which was fine. It was a healthy pressure. It wasn't, but we worked a lot on it. We worked late nights. We and not just Watt and I in the production with Gaga. She's very critical of the music, not just of other people, but of her own. She's self-critical, not in a bad way, but in she wants the best. She's like, oh, I think I can beat this vocal. I think we should re-record all the vocals on the whole song. And at when it's 2 a.m. and you've just finished doing a whole thing, sometimes that's like, really, you want to? Oh, okay. Or even though, yeah, of course we're gonna do it. I'm not gonna say no, but that can be exhausting. That can be, even though she was right in the end, we ended up going with the new. She beat the vocals, but that can be grueling. When you're in it and you're really trying to. Everyone has such a high bar, for what this needs to be, that we're all kind of we know what it needs to be. So anything less is not good enough, kind of thing. So yeah, that's why it was exhausting. Yeah,
you have to admire an artist in this era who's willing to take that time.
Yeah,
because everyone's in such a rush to put out stuff that there's a reason why Gaga's Gaga, why Bruno's Bruno.
Yeah.
Those people are notorious for making sure everything is perfect before it comes out.
Exactly.
Tell me about making Abracadabra.
That was a fun moment. That was kind of one of those spontaneous things where I had, during this process of making an album, you kind of make little seeds of ideas, little tracks, little things. Gaga, I'm sure, had many. She did have many things she had written just on piano. You have ideas floating around, and I think one night we had been working on another song, and I think I don't know why, I was just feeling kind of spontaneous. I just pulled up this thing and pressed play on this beat I had started because I was just excited about it. I was like, I want to see what kind of reaction this gets, and I played it, and the beat was essentially what you hear in the intro of the song and the post-chorus of the song. She sings abracadabra over, but the beat is going that beat basically. I played that beat, and she was like, "What is that? That's crazy. Oh shit, that's and I just kind of knew. I knew she was wanting that sort of energy. We had made a few other songs that were, I forget which songs, but I just felt that energy was we were ready for that. And yeah, my instincts were right. She just loved that beat, and of course it became much more than that beat, but that's just what started it. And then from that, I don't think she even came up with abracadabra. I don't think she came up with that first. I think that was kind of the drop or whatever of the beat, and then Andrew started to flesh it out a bit. He played the chords in the verse, and in the we created a structure, just basically the verse pre whatever, and Gaga would get on the mic, and much like most people do, she freestyles on the mic and mumbles melodies, and and at some point we had basically close to a complete song. And I remember on the abracadabra part, she tried a few different, because it's kind of like almost like mumbly, abracadabra, abra, ooh, na, na, abra, ooh, ga, ga. She's saying, like, I don't remember what it exactly is, but she tried a few different variations of that where it almost sounded like Latin. It was like, what, like, but we liked that it sounded weird and it sounded different. Like, we just thought, I don't know, it fit, just with the idea of it just being kind of the cacophony of the song, of it just being like crazy like that. And, yeah, that was, I mean, in the first day, I think we kind of had most of the sketch of the song. Like, I don't know if we had all the lyrics, but that kind of came together pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, weird is good. I think a lot of people are afraid, to be weird.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite producer right now?
What? Like, no, I'm kidding. He said me, so I gotta say him. No, I'm kidding. My favorite producer, I mean, no, genuinely, he is one of my favorite. I enjoy working with him so much. I mean, we've really found like a real camaraderie together. That, I don't know, I just admire him a lot. I think his skill set is so versatile. Like, he's so musical. He has the technical chops. He has the music history knowledge. He knows the references. He'll hear a record like this Rolling Stones record from 1976, and what guitar, and he'll know the guitar that was used. He'll know he knows his
It's an
shit.
encyclopedia.
Exactly, yeah, which I really admire, and just his passion for music. Like, he's just he loves it, and sometimes that comes across as like, to maybe someone who works with him for the first time, they're like, whoa, this guy, like, very energetic, very different from me. I'm a lot more like just chill, like, but I like that, I feed off that energy, and he just cares so much. It's like, I've heard someone describe it as like every session is like the Super Bowl with him. It doesn't matter if he's in with like writing a pitch session with some writers, or if it's with the biggest artists in the world. Every session is like, we got to get it right. So I like that. I feed off of that, and he's inspiring to work with, and we make each other better. Yeah, we have a lot of laughs. He's a hilarious guy. We have a lot of laughs. We stay up till, God knows what hour, and just talk the most absolute stupid jokes. Yeah.
What's advice you'd give a young producer in 2026?
Because it's so different now than, I'm trying to imagine, like, if I had to start again now, like, I don't know where I would begin. Like, it's pretty, as through the course of this interview, I talked about from my like childhood until my, like, it's pretty different now, but I think it still remains the same. I think you gotta the number one thing is you have to have the passion and the desire for it. Like, that's what feeds it. If you're just kind of, oh, I think I'll try music because it's sort of cool and like see what happens. I don't think you could get lucky, but I think you really have to put in the time. Everyone says the 10,000 hours, but like, it's true. You have to like really, put in the time to figure out what it is that you're great at. If you're a producer, there's many different things you could be great at. If you're a songwriter, there's not just one thing. It's like, what's your unique thing that you bring to the table, and how can you, maybe in the beginning, how can you just contribute to what's already going on? Like, maybe you don't, if you're new, you don't have a name yet, but how can you just get in and provide value to what's already going on? And I don't know, in this day and age, it's like the internet, it's, I don't know if, yeah, you could meet people physically in person and like some word of mouth and like network and stuff, but I think you got to commit to something and just do it unapologetically and go for it, and it's okay if maybe you don't know what that is right away, but as soon as you figure it out, just like go for it and like really make it your life, because I don't think there's any other substitute.
Should songwriters get points?
Yeah. I think the label should pony up.
There you go.
I mean, yeah, you've been quite vocal about this, and maybe I haven't been quite as vocal about it as I should be, but I believe that. Yeah.
I mean, I do think, there are a couple songs that I've produced that where I've been able to go to labels and say, the non-performing artist, or the not, the non-performing songwriter on the song should get a point.
Yeah.
So, instead of 4 points, we're going to make it 5 points, and I'm going to send that
Yeah.
that point over. If you don't want to set the precedent, then, as a producer leading the way, I think
Yeah.
I find that easier than when I'm the writer going and being like, hey, can you throw me and then it gets of like, whose point is that? But I think when I go in as the producer and fight for it, I find that easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's start with even just like a songwriter fee,
Sure.
like, I mean, points of course, I think those are
Yeah.
deserved as well, but like, because yeah, there is definitely a big gap between, people who are actually not just starting out and like, but like who are having legitimately big hits who are not, we all know, they're not making a lot of money from it, and that's not fair, I mean.
Well, I'll say that in the intro, I said in the end, not a lot of active, relevant writer producers show up to events that support songwriters and producers. Not a lot of people put in the time to, you publish writers, you mentor writers. That's what makes Max, and when the mentorship, that's what. But as far as being like an advocate, showing up to meetings and to dinners or whatever it is, seeing you at some of the things like Sona events, and
yeah,
it means a lot because there's so few people willing to say I'm going to show up and be helpful.
Right.
And you are you do that. You can't overstate how valuable that is to the community. So I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate what you do, and sometimes I'm just there to kind of observe and listen and learn more about it, and I don't know if I know what the absolute solution is. There's got to be some kind of compromise, but like, I do think, songwriters are very, they're undervalued, and they just, they're speaking up, and it's not, the current system is kind of broken, it needs to, the things that are in place are pretty archaic. And, I mean, I know there's some songwriters, maybe it's sort of, we don't talk about it, but who are, charging fees on their own privately, and like, that's great. Not everyone can do that.
And then NDAs have to be signed, so you can't. It's a complicated thing, setting a new precedent.
Yeah.
But
songwriters are like, I mean, producers and songwriters, whatever, the lines are kind of blurred, I guess. But like, sometimes songwriters are the ones who are. They're sometimes producing. They're like leading. They're steering the session. They might be like close with the artist. They're really, taking the lead and like defining. Everyone's different. Like, everyone's role is different, but the lines start to become blurred. Like, maybe that songwriter is kind of actually more producing, and so I don't know what the solution is, but I know it needs to be rectified over time.
Well, listen, thank you for doing this podcast. I know you and I've talked about it for a long time.
Yeah.
But man, it's, you moved here right when I'm starting to write, and you're like, to be having this conversation in this forum, starting from where we started, is really amazing. The journey you've been on is outstanding. I'm so excited for the Grammys to have recognized you finally.
Thank you.
To be nominated for Producer of the Year, along with all the other nominations with album, record, song, on multiple songs. I mean, it's just well earned, and I can't say enough nice things about you. There's no better call than like, hey, you want to go in with Cirkut? And it's because you're going to go home and be like, that was a good day, and that's all you can ask for. So I appreciate you being on here.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. It was produced by me and Joe London in association with Mega House Music Group. If you like this episode, go give us a rating at wherever you listen to your podcast, and make sure to follow us at And the Writer Is on all your socials. We'll see you next week.